So once upon a time in Latvia, a group of friends, just a ragtag group of buds who were really into synths, they were heading to a synth store to go look at something new, and they were stuck in traffic. And there was a massive crowd in the center of the city. Riga? What is the capital of Latvia?
Riga is the capital of Latvia.
Anyway, so this group of friends stuck in traffic on Riga Boulevard, which is like the main boulevard in the middle of the biggest street in all of Latvia. Stuck in traffic, looking at the crowds, saying, "What's going on here?" And it turns out that that was when every 3 years there's a massive drone competition in Latvia. Biggest one in the world. And so they make their way through the crowd, and finally they're in the drone field, and they're looking at these racing drones and stunt drones. And one of them says, "What if that was a synthesizer?" Now, what they didn't realize is that all of these drones that were flying around were actually playing a game. And the rules of this game were very simple. Whoever could fly their drone the closest to a child's head without hitting the child wins. And so this ragtag group of synth buds said, "We need to change this game. And we're going to take these drone motors and put them into this." And a lot of people don't realize this, but that's how they got their name. I'm Ben Jordan, and this is Synthesizer History. Good night. So obviously, nothing I've said in this video has been true so far, other than the capital of Latvia being Riga, and the company being Game Changer Audio, and there actually being drone motors inside this synthesizer. And that is why we're here today, because this is one of the most batshit insane synthesizer concepts I've ever heard of, and I had to see it for myself. More so than playing with it and doing a synth demo, I just kind of wanted to see and learn about how this works, because it is an entirely new type of synthesis. And what is going on here? A lot of my viewers are probably thinking, hey wait, isn't this just a tone wheel organ? No, a standard Hammond tone wheel has 96 wheels or discs. These are 8 optical discs, and beneath them are 8 brushless racing drone motors. Quality drone motors are designed to be extremely accurate and reliable in a wide variety of conditions, and because of this, they can also be accurate enough to drive a physical oscillator that stays in tune. So let's go back in time 5 years, cue a whole tone scale, thank you. I made a video showcasing how lasers can be used in incredibly accurate audio transmitters, spy microphones, and even synth modulation sources. And it's actually not that complicated of a project or all that different than using a cable. So now that we know this, back to the motor synth. So infrared lasers shine onto the discs and then catch the reflection and then process that into sound. The discs themselves have varying levels of reflectivity, almost like dotted lines. Some of the patterns fade in and out, creating softer sounding sine waves, while others are sharper. The result? An imperfect sine wave, chaotic saw waves. When we hear a periodic function or oscillator that is imperfect or chaotic, it sounds dirty or grungy. And then there is something that my other analog synthesizers do not have. An M. I assume it stands for magnet, because this is a pickup amplifying the sound of the discs themselves using electromagnetic induction. While motor synthesis is obviously incredibly unique and unlike anything else that I can think of in this area, I would imagine that it also has its limits. So to keep things spicy, each independent motor voice has their own separate amp and pitch envelope, as well as analog multi-mode filters. There's also a polyphonic digital oscillator that has all its own envelopes and everything, and that adds some flexibility and additional layers to the sound. On the back, we have MIDI in and out, USB connectivity, independent voice sends and returns that allow you to send the post-VCA raw voices to the different filter and loop them back in, if you please. Then there's 3 triggers and 3 CV inputs, all of which are assignable. There is a 1/4-inch audio input that can also be used as a sidechain or a trigger, or allegedly a 12-band vocoder. I tried to get the vocoder to work, and it was unsuccessful for me. However, it is not detailed in the manual because it was added in later firmware. I'm not sure if it was added yet, or if I'm just stupid and can't figure it out. The output is actual stereo, but in a single TRS cable, so you would have to use a splitter if you wanted to plug it into 2 mono inputs in a stereo pedal or something. And the function of stereo from my understanding, is just splitting up the voices into left and right every time you hit one. By the way, unless you're counting overdrive and filter, there are no effects. There's no reverb, there's no delay, there's no chorus, and I could not care less. Not everybody's gonna agree with me on this, but my take is, unless you have a chip and algorithm that can run incredible world-class reverb, then why include it at all in a synth like this? How many synths or workstations have incredibly powerful sound or performance options and then drown it all in garbage reverb that was included as an afterthought? I'm gonna make a wild guess here. If you're spending $3,300 on a desktop synthesizer with drone motors in it, you probably own a decent reverb pedal already. And if not, I am almost certain that you can afford one because, let's be honest, this is getting into jet ski territory at this price. And so there's no avoiding that. The price is kind of the elephant in the room. And it's not priced that way as like a luxury product or something. It's priced like that for a reason, and that reason is because it's extremely unique, ambitious, and it has 8 fucking drone motors spinning optical discs to create physical periodic functions. It is easily one of the most interesting synthesizer concepts I've ever heard of, and that is why it's on this channel today. Affordable or not, I'm glad that the engineers pulled the trigger and made it a reality. Let's go play with it. So let's turn it on. The noise of all of these cooling fans is something that we are not used to in 2023, and I can almost guarantee that if you own this, you will not be leaving it on in your studio when you're not using it. But we haven't even turned the discs on yet. I'm gonna admit that I'm a little bit relieved to not even have to think about background noise in this video, because this will be overpowering anything else the mic picks up. Believe it or not, I actually really like the sounds of the discs because the physical discs themselves are in tune with what you're playing. The digital oscillator's turned down. I'm turning down voice 2. This is just a sine wave. And let's see what a sine wave sounds like with these motorized oscillators. Saw. Square. And then this is M, the magnetic pickup. So we could mix that with a saw from this second voice. And we could also cross-modulate the voices. Even if we turn this one down. This is probably the bassiest synth I have ever played with in my life. And I think it's just because of how low these can naturally spin. Square waves don't shake my house very often, but in this case, oof. Okay, by the way, you will hear our friend the Empress Reverb on the end of this mix every now and then, just to make it a little bit more fun, but let's make a patch. All right, so voice 1. We have our voice 1 envelope, and the pitch envelope is called accelerate and break for this very reason. And then we also have a filter envelope for everything as well. So I'm gonna turn the filter all the way down, turn the filter envelope all the way up. We could also finely adjust the envelope curves. But I'm just gonna make this like a little plink sound. Okay, now I'm gonna bring in voice 2, which is still in the bass. So this can be an entirely different amplitude envelope. And by the way, if we want to change the notes on these 4 pads, we could just right, now on to the digital oscillator. So right now it's a pulse wave, and we could edit the pulse width. But we could change that wave to other standard waves like saw or sine. We also have a wave folder. We could also sync it, which I'm actually gonna stick with. Now for each voice, we could have different filter envelopes, and I'm only going to edit the filter envelope of the digital voice. We could also change the envelopes from like ADSR to AD to AR to DRDSR to ADSHR. If you're new to this, that's attack, decay, sustain, hold, and release. Then we also have a looping envelope, which is a lot of fun. This sounds like a jet about to take off. So what if we modulated this cutoff just a little bit slowly? All right, so hit Alt, Mod Setup, or Assign, and then make sure we're on Mod 2, 2A, because there are 6 different modulators. And then all you have to do is just turn whatever knob you want, and then it will assign it. Then do this again, and we should be set. Now the timing on mod number 2 is restricted to the BPM, so we could just change that to either a different modulator or just this way we could just do it with hertz. We've also modulated the pitch to modulator 1. Okay. This feels so boring now after that. We do have an arpeggiator. And yes, we can put it on random. That means that we can hit all of the notes and latch them. There's also something called clutch, which I don't think I've ever seen before. And how clutch works, I hold down clutch, I could turn down cutoff, turn up the resonance, for example, turn the cross mod all the way here, and then let go. Do it again. Pretty cool. All right, let's go to Sequencer Town here. This is a mono lane sequencer, meaning that you can't really sequence chords or 2 different notes at once. However, it is pretty powerful, and it does have some probability and glide and things like that. It is not the most intuitive thing in the world. I'm going to try and get through it, but let's dive in really quick. So by pressing these encoders, we could switch between note and velocity, gate and glide. Now, by holding down Alt, I can turn the first encoder here and select everything. I'm going to turn all of the gates down. Now to enter the actual notes, you could do what I'm doing, where you manually move them up and down or in between 2 different semitones. Or if you just don't have time for that, you could just select the note that you want to change, hold down record. It'll press whatever's already listed on your note board here. And I assume you can probably do that from MIDI as well, which would be very helpful. Now let's change some of the velocities. I'm assuming this is micro timing because you could just tune things in the note entryway, so I'm just going to try and time this off a little bit. Yeah, and this is ratcheting. We could go up to 4. And then probability. I would like to turn the probability on this last note to halfway, which means it'll play it 50% of the time. Now if we wanted this to, it could go into other patterns automatically. And we have a pattern song mode, I suppose. Now we also have motion recording or automation recording here, and I believe that's done by just arming. Easy enough. The motion recording is actually really powerful. If we hold down Alt and hit sequencer motion record, we go into this world of motion recording where I'm going to record something a little bit more dynamic here. Now to play it back, we can also play it at higher speeds. And we could also change the direction. And then if we go onto this page, we can also have it sync to BPM, which I believe will... Wow, so we essentially can make our own LFOs. That is incredibly cool. So I'll do another one. Wow, so it even works with the modulators. Alright, I'm gonna try and use the clutch feature. What? That is so useless here, but so powerful when you actually think of a creative musical way to use it. It's actually a really good way to just make a kind of tape stop effect, isn't it? I have one of my old school analog metronomes here going into the Empress Para EQ Make 2 pedal, mostly because of its massive amount of amplitude boost. That's going into the input of the motor synth and driving the sidechain, and then that is just going output into the Empress Reverb, which as of right now is disabled, but I'm sure we'll enable it in a moment. And let's try it. Wow. So what do you think? It definitely sounds unique. And I feel like that's often a way to sidestep saying that something sucks, and that's not what I'm doing here. I think that it sounds awesome and unique in a good way. This was produced in late 2022, and my serial number is in the 600s. I would guess that there's probably 1,000 made. And if so, it is unique enough to where this is one of those synths that are probably going to go up in value when they stop making them. And before you know it, it'll probably be included in Arturia V Collection 15 or some Contact Instruments or something. Now, one concern that I initially had was the same one that I have with the Nina, which is a synth with motorized knobs. I thought to myself, moving mechanical parts not only make things way more expensive, but they fail a lot faster. In Nina's case, it seems like they could have just used rotary encoders with LEDs instead of actual moving knobs, so I can't give them a pass on that because the moving parts seem to be purely aesthetic. However, with the motor synth, it is the core function of the instrument. On the other hand, I myself am a drone enthusiast. I've had them for about 10 years now, since the very first Phantom, and I've flown them in everything from wet to hot to cold to windy conditions. I've abused the heck out of them, and I've never had a single drone motor fail. In contrast, the drone motors in here are like isolated in their own little pseudo Faraday cage. So I would think that it would be safe to assume that unless you intend on leaving this on 24/7, the moving parts won't present a problem that shortens the lifespan compared to any other analog synthesizer. Regardless, the situation made me take a peek at the warranty, and it is good to know that this has an all-inclusive 2-year service warranty and lifetime technical support and in-house service for damage or technical repairs. So if something did go wrong, it would presumably be taken care of. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed hearing it and or learning about how it works. If you are actually in the market to buy something like this, I may have an affiliate link in the description. Over the last year, I've donated all of my affiliate income to the ACLU. That actually will not be the case anymore. Since my last video, this channel has officially filed to be a nonprofit organization, meaning that I will not personally get any affiliate money. It just further funds educational and research content here, and if there's any spillover in those funds, it will fund highly rated music education charities. All things directly related to this YouTube channel will be part of this nonprofit, which means that in the future, there's going to be a whole lot more disclosure and transparency by law. This includes my Patreon and whatever that evolves into. And if you want to join a healthy, fun community of like-minded individuals, get loads of unreleased music and audio assets, and participate in monthly songwriting challenges that end up getting played on my streaming channel, then my Patreon is for you, and you can join for as little as $1. All right, see you later.